There's one person on. Is that you?
11 waiting. I'm chatting. No one else seems to be yet. So Brewster says refresh.
Oh, there's two on now. Some people are finding it.
All right, so I'll refresh. Let me try that.
We're getting there. All right, with two people on, there are now three people are on. All right, they're finding it out. Well, welcome to Hangin' from the Rafters, our first shot at putting this show together. As you all know, life is pretty crazy right now, and this pandemic has made, especially for music, live music, made things pretty screwy. So we're going to have to be, a little adventurous on how we go forward with this kind of thing.
I'm on.
So bear with us if it's a little bit rough tonight, but this is the beginning of hopefully a continuous weekly show with new performers every week. We'll be having interviews, talking, and maybe not even all musical guests. It could be artists, painters, poets, could be anybody, So we're going to try to do this every Saturday, 8 o'clock, Hanging from the Rafters. So welcome. And I'm going to introduce you here to the stage. Most of you are acquainted with it. Now you'll also notice that I'm not wearing a mask, but I have this clear plastic sheet that extends about 6 feet and from floor to ceiling. And this creates a safe space for the people being interviewed and myself. So, with that being said, our very first Hanging from the Rafters guest, I have to tell you, she is a performer. She's a singer, a songwriter, author, playwright, fantastic guitarist, the host of Rafters Open Mic, our very popular open mic. She is a force of nature. Please give a big round of applause from where you are for Elizabeth Rose. I don't know if you can hear that, but this is my little sound effects machine. This is applause from you.
And this is Brewster Smith, and this is the Brewster Ono Band. Plastic Brewster Ono. Plastic Ono. Anyway, hi!
That's right. We can only see each other in a blurry kind of way.
Yes.
Right now.
Yes.
But that's okay. So Elizabeth and I have been neighbors for about 10 years. I made it up to Callicoon about 10 years ago, and you've been coming up here for a while, haven't you?
Yes, I have. I've been coming up here since, my brother bought a place in Roscoe years and years ago. But I'm not old enough to remember all those years that I've been coming up here.
All right, so you already had a fan base. You were already playing up here.
Yeah. Yeah. We played here since a long time ago. 80s, early 80s. Let's just say that.
The early 80s.
Those are the 1980s. Thank you.
So what drew you up here to begin with?
Well, it was kind of a coincidence that my brother actually had a place in Roscoe, but I wasn't coming to Callicoon. I just went up to visit him. Then I had a bit of a story of, moving from here to there. And I lived in Woodstock over on the other side of the Catskills. And when the winters got too rough, a bunch of people from there were going to Key West. So I drove down to Key West for this winter of '77. And there I was playing some music, working in some restaurants, and met some great people, Ginny and Zeke Boyle and Maureen Neville. And lo and behold, Zeke was from Callicoon. So that was my first entrance into Calicoon through those guys. And we had a great time. We used, after I moved back to New York, to the city, I used to come up here for years. And I had a band, we had a band here, Rosie and the Rockets.
So can I ask you this? Because I remember this story that you, and are we allowed to say this? That you and Ginny and Zeke were on a boat to Cuba. Is that true?
And Maureen. We lived in Key West, and in 1978, for the first time in many years, the governments of the US and Cuba decided they would allow a cooperative concert in Havana at the Karl Marx Auditorium between the greatest Cuban musicians and the CBS Records artists. So I found out about it. I had just come to Key West and I heard about this, and I said, would you like me to go? I'm a musician. And I said, yeah, because a bunch of them had already decided to go. So 7 small sailboats, ours was 37-foot sloop, sailed from Key West. We went more than the 90 miles because we kind of undershot Cuba in the middle of it one whole night. And we spent 10 days in Cuba. We went to 3 nights of this concert, which was fantastic. Irakire and great Cuban musicians, and Billy Joel, that they called Billy Joel, and Chris Christopherson's, John McLaughlin, Jaco Pastorius. I'm trying to think of all the great names that were there. So we had a great time for 10 days down there. Couldn't come back because we didn't have wind. And we didn't have enough wind to come back across the Gulf of Mexico. So we had to stay there day after day. Gee, shucks. It was great. And
I didn't realize this was a 37-foot boat. Usually, I mean, I have heard this story before, once or twice. I never asked how big the boat was. I always picture it's like this 5-foot rowboat.
Well, when you pile about 6 or 7 hippies on top of each other, you might get it like look like a 5-foot robot. But in this case, it was a 37-foot sloop that was built by hand by a fellow named Steve. It was called the Zephyros, and he had dropped out of MIT and built this boat to sail around the world, and I believe it was called the Pangea. So every year we get together again and reminisce about it up here in Calicoon.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of the greatest adventures of my life.
Well, it sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was.
That's why I asked you about it. I mean, that story is always stuck in my head. Now, you have your guitar there, and I know that you're going to play some songs, but before you do, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your musical history. Anyone who's been here for the open mic knows that Elizabeth Rose is by the way, everyone says Elizabeth Rose. It's the full name. Elizabeth Rose. Prince, something short. You, Elizabeth Rose, right?
Okay.
Everybody knows that she's an amazing guitar player, amazing writer, amazing singer. So how long have you been playing guitar? And 2-part question, you have a musical family, don't you?
Well, I picked up the guitar when I was around 13 because it was my 5th instrument. I grew up in a family of musicians, and most of them were professional musicians. So I picked up the guitar when I was 13. So I've been playing about 10 years. And it was because I noticed at a youth group meeting that there was a girl who could hardly play, who was very popular, a lot of people around her. So I thought, gee, I got to do that. And it just so happened my brother was a great guitar player and is a great guitar player and mandolin player. So the family was very musical, and it goes back generations. We had a soprano, a famous Siberian soprano, several grand aunts before me that was actually probably from the Ukraine, where my mother's side is all mostly it is on my mother's side. My mother's brother, Ted Raff, was the first to ever write down the arrangements for the Dorsey brothers, first written arranger for the Dorsey brothers. He went on to be the conductor and arranger of a bunch of shows on early 50s TV, live TV, Name That Tune, Stop the Music, Hobby Lobby. His son, Alan, he was also a trombone player. His son, Alan, was a trombone player too, bass trombone. He played a lot of sessions. You can hear him on Janis Ian's at 17. He played in Jerry Mulligan Concert Jazz Band. And he did a lot of arranging. Both of them did a lot of arranging for Broadway, and his cousin Alan wrote for the Joffrey Ballet. And my brother is a great guitar player. He was a very happening session guitar player in the heyday of the session guitar players, played on a million hit records and lots of other stuff. So, and my mother was a singer and a comedian, and she did some comedy on Letterman. And she did a lot of plays when she was younger. She left to become a teacher, and then at age 75, we got her pictures taken, and she became an actor again. She got picked up doing stuff. So, but she was a great singer too. And so in my family, it was classical music when we were little. And so I grew up on classical music, classical piano, and Gilbert and Sullivan was very big in our family. Tom Lehrer. My father played cello, not professionally, and my mother played piano. And then we had madrigal singing. By the time I was 5 years old, we had madrigal singing, and family would come over and we'd sing and read music. It was incredible. And we had string quartets and quintets with my dad's friends. They were mostly doctors, by the way. It was kind of fun.
So it sounds like a buttload of
A
music.
buttload. And then then came rock and roll. So my brother and I took over the basement, and we didn't do a lot of stuff together because he was older and I wasn't supposed to play with his friends.
So were you guys kind of like the Sound of Music, the Van Trapp family, and you all got along really well, or were you more competitive? Because that sounds like a lot of musicians.
Competitive family. Yes, indeed. I know you saw the show I did off Broadway at the Cherry Lane Theater. It kind of went through the musical competition in our family. Everybody was off somewhere playing something, making noise, and I could go on endlessly about it. But I was lucky because my brother let me play rhythm guitar for him, so I got good. I got competent at playing rhythm guitar. He's a great rhythm guitar player, like you. He's great, but he's also a great lead and everything, and a great reader. But yeah, it was competitive in our family.
So competitive, but you all got along, or did it sometimes get in the way?
Let's see.
It sounds like it sometimes got in the way.
How to be diplomatic about this? It was. I think people learned to leave each other alone a lot in my family when they were practicing, and yet there were times I shouldn't say that because I always would play and get involved with my parents' friends. So if we were singing madrigals, I'd be there. My brother would never be doing that. He was playing guitar off somewhere. And then when he was playing with his bands in the basement, I would sit on the basement steps where I couldn't be seen because I wasn't allowed to join them. And all I wanted to do was go down there and sing with them. I really, really wanted to do that. So
were you ever allowed, or
no?
So you always watched from a distance?
Yeah, I mean, they were all older, and they all became. A lot of them became well-known musicians. Those kids from Queens, New York. Harvey Brooks from Electric Flag, he was always over there. And they were always playing with Al Cooper. I don't think he was at our house, but, those guys were serious, they were serious and they didn't want the little sister around.
Well, everybody, those who know you, know that you are a bundle of energy, like a Spitfire, a force of nature. Would you say, because this is what it sounds like, that some of that element of you comes from that time of wanting to be part?
I've never lost the desire to really want to get better. I still want to get better. That's always very driven to get better and learn stuff. And that's probably just in the family. That's probably just, to get to where my brother and my cousin and my uncle got to, you had to be the top guy and you had to be fast at it. But the other thing I got from it was knowing how much, and I think this is really more important, knowing how much I wanted, to play. I was that kid sitting on the staircase, right? And I couldn't let them see me, but I just wanted to play. It has become very, very important to me in my life as a musician and a teacher to foster other people's creativity. It's been really important to me because I know how much that hurts. And I keep wanting to heal that thing. by saying, come on, let's play, to my students, to people we play with in Rafters and show them all off. That's a very driving force.
So would you say in doing that, it's also an effort to heal your own wounds?
Yeah, I know what it feels like. And it's not necessary to feel like that because everybody is creative. Everybody is endowed with creativity and everybody can grow. And the idea is to say yes as a teacher, certainly, or education system, to say yes to the light in each person and find out where that special thing is that they can develop if they so choose. And it's also a lot of fun, and it's a kind of a selfish thing in a way because it regenerates for me so much when I see people growing and growing, getting more confident and learning and seeing that they have more than they thought they even had. And I'm not saying I didn't get any of that. My mother was certainly very supportive, also competitive. My mother was competitive. I just want to tell you how my mother was competitive when she was 98 years old in the emergency room for a very small stroke. She was lying in the bed waiting for some test or something. It wasn't a serious stroke, it was something called a TIA. And she looked up at me and I said, Mom, how are you? How are you doing? And she said, well, I just wish we could change places.
I don't know what that sounded like over the microphone, but it's supposed to be laughter from my little sound machine. And there you go. Well, you had mentioned earlier that you did a one-woman show, and I happen to know one of my favorite songs that you do is from that show, and I asked you recently about that song, and you said it was the first song you ever wrote that you knew was good.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And that song is called Box 34. Would you play Box 34?
I certainly will. This was written after a marriage broke up, and I found myself reading the personals. This is called Print. They used to make newspapers and print. It was in the Village Voice, but it's still relevant today. Attractive male, 31, is looking for a wife. I'm 5'8" and rather thin, really into life. I'm well read and quite sensitive. Come travel far with me. He's right if you're a pretty girl, just pushing 23, just right to Box 34, Caribbean Express. I hope to find somebody I can impress. You're welcome to sing along, Brewster. Liberated Scorpio would like to find a man. Artistic types are much preferred. I'm vegetarian. I'm into meditation, also tennis and writing. If you would like some company, just drop a line to me, just write to Box 34, Caribbean Express. Hope to find somebody I can impress. Printing deadlines Monday night, all at $4 a line. Sitting, writing message out in hopes buying time. Attractive male, 21, is really 45. His interest in most everything is nothing more than jive. The Scorpio's a mystic, hides behind bedroom blinds. When answering the personals, please read between the lines and write to Box 34, Caribbean Express. I hope you find somebody you can impress. Just write to Box 34, Caribbean
love that song.
Thank you, Rooster.
So I also, an hour goes very quickly. I'm noticing how fast time is going.
I can play faster.
No need, but I would love for you to play Ferris Wheel. This is one of my favorite songs that Elizabeth Rose has written. I wish I wrote this tune. It has everything that I like in a song. So, without further ado,
I have to take one second break here. Sorry, folks. I've written this song over 20 years to get it right before I recorded it. It's on my album, Sleep Naked, and I had to change the words till I felt they were perfect. And thank you, Rooster. Riding on a Ferris wheel, going high, and looking over, climbing on a Ferris wheel to the sky. We're riders on a Ferris wheel. Such a ride. Now it's down or down the slide. We're on the other side. Can feel the change inside. And going over, rising on the Ferris wheel. Second time. And there's no hurry, floating, soaring, unconcealed, sheer incline. We're on the worry Ferris wheel. Love is like a Ferris wheel, takes you high and leaves you hanging. Breathless, fragile, so revealed, open wide, not in command, Ferris wheel. Take a ride, don't let it pass you by. You're on the other side. And right before you fly, you're going underneath the Ferris wheel. There's a line of people standing, waiting for a chance to feel very fine, like lovers on a Ferris wheel.
that's awesome. That's a great song.
Thank you.
Love that tune. And you said that song was a songwriting experiment. It was like homework. No?
No, I actually, this one was not, what was the homework one? I don't remember.
No, you said this one was, you were supposed to write something in a messed up time signature or something.
No, not this one, not this one. This was a song that came straight out of the heart. It started off as this progression. And it took me actually years to form it. I had the form, and I had a guitar teacher named Bobby Ferris. So he was a great jazz player. That was the Ferris part of it. And I went to some jazz workshops, and somebody had that progression. I thought that was great for the bridge. So it was not this one was not an assignment. And so
Oh, that's wild.
got
How did I
it.
get that?
Yeah.
I think maybe I got it confused because it's kind of an assignment for me. I mean, as a drummer, I should be able to do time signatures well. I've yet to figure that one out.
Well, I'll be happy to explain it to you, as anybody else is. It switches time signatures. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. So that's a 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that last bar of the 4 is in 6/8.
Well, I'm certainly not going to memorize that right now.
You probably could play it great because you listen to it in your car. You know?
Well, you have a lot of things that you do, and I know I'm going to leave some of them out, but you also wrote a book
Yes.
called Yo Miz.
Yes, I did. Yes, I wrote a book. The same year my show was produced at the Cherry Lane Theater, I was sent off as a public school substitute teacher to 25 New York City, well, actually Manhattan public high schools, one school a week, a different school a week. And it was an idea, they were trying to get rid of teachers who were on their payroll voluntarily who had tenure. So there were 2,500 of us that they were sending around, and the desire by the bosses was that we would get so miserable being substitute teachers. And I've been with my school for almost 10 years as a teaching artist and then a full-time teacher. And they thought that if they sent us to a new school each week, we would be worn down. And sure enough, by the second week, I thought, I'm going to go do something else. But then the voice came in, the lightning flashed, and the gods of comedy told me that if I didn't write this, that I would be struck down. So I did. I stayed the whole year, and I wrote the book about it. It was called Yo Miz, subtitle, 1 teacher plus 25 schools equals 1 wacky year. And published it myself, and it was pretty successful. It got won 3 independent awards, independent publishing awards, and I was on PBS, and they were interested in it. And
That's
morning
fantastic.
watching. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. It was a lot of.
You took a very difficult and what seemed almost a pointless exercise and gave it purpose.
Well, my editor, I hired a wonderful editor, and she told me what the book was about, and that was what really hit me hard. I knew there was a reason I was writing. She said it's about the kids, and it is, because no matter where they are or what they're doing, you fall in love with the kids. As a teacher, or you just shouldn't be there, and they are voiceless. And so this was my opportunity to bring their voices out. So I'm actually extracting one of the stories from there. I've been working on an animated short, just working on the script right now. So, because those voices are so important to hear.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you have another song for us.
I can think of one. You like this one?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, this is called Deliver Me, and it comes from my years in Woodstock, which were healing a marriage breaking up. And it was one of my most prolific times as a songwriter. We write songs to heal ourselves, right? And others, hopefully. Please live for me. Please excuse the insecurity. But I'm searching for a recipe. Can you give me what I need? Please live for me. Please explain the incongruities. Won't you show me what I want to see? Can you give me what I need? Take me by the hand. Tell me when I'm going astray. Shake me if I'm really not in command. And wake me if I'm screaming in the middle of a one night stand. Why, please live for me. Please reveal you want to rescue me. Won't you seize the opportunity? Can you give me what I need? Can you give me what I need? Be back there. Wait a minute. instead. Why, please live with me. Please reveal your warm and rescue. What she sees the opportunity. Can you give me what I need? 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 Can you give me what I need?
That's great.
Thank you. Feel free to jump in on percussion or sing anything.
Oh, I'm just sitting here in a comfortable chair getting a concert. Some of you who are tuning in late, you might see this gray line between us. This is why we're not wearing masks, because we have a big plastic sheet from floor to ceiling. I only see Elizabeth in a blur over there, but this is how we're able to do this, and how in the future we'll be able to do it with other folks. But that line that you have, that has been stuck in my head so many times, so many mornings I've woken up and it's just running through. That is absolutely one of those kinds of lines. Now, I have some rather silly questions too.
Oh, okay.
Not totally silly, ones that I'm curious about. Like, this whole crazy pandemic thing. I don't always want to bring that up because I feel like everybody's bringing that up.
We could call it a songdemic.
It's a songdemic. Well, it's a crazy time, and some people have problems sleeping, and they have this, that, and the other thing. So I'm curious. I'm going to ask you a question about the best gig or the best day you've ever had in your life. But first, I want to know, what are you really afraid of? What's one of your biggest fears?
Fear.
Fear itself? Is that what you're
Fear
talking?
itself. Fear itself. I am most afraid of. I don't use words like fear a lot. I'm very careful with what I say and what words I use, because I think that has so much to do with our emotional state of being. So what am I afraid of? I'm not afraid of, there are things that I'm afraid of I don't like going very fast. I don't like.
So high speeds.
High speeds, don't like high speeds.
But you're a high speed gal.
I know.
You have that kind of energy.
I know, but if I'm not controlling
anything faster than you, no go.
Yeah, and even my horse is like walk, trot, cancer. I have gotten less comfortable flying in airplanes.
Mm-hmm.
That is not my favorite thing. If you want to dredge out and I'm sure that Donnie my husband, my darling husband, who's here tonight and helping us with audio, would tell you that I'm always driving when we're together, even though he's just holding the wheel and pumping the accelerator and the brake. Oh. So it might be a control thing,
Might be.
We've been married 20 years, and I must say very happily. And
yes, I should point that out, by the way. Many of you know that Elizabeth does the host the open mic here. Donnie also, her husband, has been doing sound from day one. We've only been open a year before this magical pandemic hit and threw a wrench in the cogs of this machine. But these guys have been in here the entire time, the whole way, making it great. So we really appreciate that.
This is the greatest musical community I've ever been involved with. And this is the greatest vibe place. And it's because of Molly Denver and Brewster Smith and Keith Thompson. And they draw such beautiful energy in here, and they've made it such a beautiful place. And everybody who's probably listening tonight feels the same way. And we're so looking forward to getting back together again, because this is what makes me so happy. It's the high point of my week, is doing the open mic. And we do it virtually every Sunday now.
That is true.
And it's still the high point of my week. And people are still growing. And one of the interesting things that's happening with the virtual open mic is we're getting to hear more originals from our players who often do covers. because it's a more intimate setting and people are doing things, showing up with songs. Dave Milner came up with something a few weeks ago that was, wow, this is great, So there's a lot of real creativity that's actually growing in the virtual world. And I hope to see more of that when we get back. And this show, Hanging at the Rafters, is going to give people more of an opportunity to share their originals in a more intimate setting. We love Rafters. It's, Molly made me a Rafters mask, and you probably saw it on Facebook today. It's just fabulous. Anyway,
That's right. We have our
Molly.
Rafters Tavern pandemic masks. Get your fresh, hot Rafters Tavern pandemic mask.
Can we get a pandemic?
Exactly.
I would like that.
So now tell me, before your next song,
Okay.
what is either the best day / best gig you ever had? I just kind of imagine that they're kind of connected for you, but they don't have to be.
Well, it's true. The best I ever felt probably was I got to sing the national anthem at a Mets game back at Shea Stadium in 2006. And it was great. It was the best feeling in the world for me to be in that giant place and have all those people and be able to sing the anthem. And when it was over, when people were still clapping and I wasn't leaving, I had to leave, because I had to play ball. Anyway, I had to get off the stage. I just stood there for a second, one of those nanoseconds, and I said, "This is the best thing I've ever done. I've never had some." And I was on tour. I mean, I did a lot of stuff. I toured with Beatlemania, the Broadway cast and stuff. But this was it. But singing for the Mets.
And with your range, I can just imagine what you did with the one magical note that everybody waits for in that song.
Yeah, and I have to say, I hit that note in an octave above it, and they just started screaming. So that was fun.
Yeah.
And it was, maybe they were screaming it off the stage, but I think they were liking it. When the rockets red, like that,
Like that.
And you had the echo coming back at you because you got all these microphones. It was great. Oh my God, it was great.
All right,
But
play
you
ball.
can't get attached to those things. Yeah, you can't get attached to those things.
Well, that brings us to
Rafters
another song.
Tavern right now is my favorite gig. Next song, yes. How much time do we
This
have?
one, we're getting there, but we have time. So this one is "I'm Too Beautiful." What's the
You are, so
background?
am I.
See.
Yeah.
So yeah. So wait.
Guys, I hope you all saw the Rafters Tavern. We are open again. We're open for takeout movie with Molly, Keith, and Brewster, because every time my energy falls, I watch that again. And when we get to the last Brewster song on that movie, that video, singing about the burrito, if you haven't seen it, it's right on the same page on YouTube on the Rafters channel. It's like a happiness drug. It's so silly. So thank you for that.
Making them.
Okay.
We're going to make more in the future. But so, why did you write this tune?
Marriage.
All right. Let's hear
Ended.
it. I'm Too Beautiful.
Okay, the marriage ended, and the guy left, and then he came back and stole a lot of stuff. Then one day he called. He didn't call me. He called my brother. He was like, "I want to talk to her. I went to a therapist. I should." Blah blah blah. So I wrote a song, and I'm so grateful to him for this song. You're whining, you're crying, you're cheating, you're lying. You made it your career. You're stealing, you're spying, deceiving and defying. I had it up to here. Now you're down on your knees and you're begging me, please take me back. And you sound so sincere. Oh, my heart should break. I'm too beautiful. Sing it, Brewster. I'm too beautiful. I'm too beautiful for you. I'm too beautiful. I'm too beautiful. I'm too beautiful for you. Well, you fell off the track. I'm not taking you back. We can't live in the same hemisphere. I come back from the pain. I won't go there again. There are no victims. There's just volunteers. I'm too beautiful for you. Oh, yeah. I know your story. I've heard it all before. You're confused, they're abused. You've been shaking, mistaken, oh honey. Well, ain't that a shame? You've been thinking, stop drinking, even paid for head shrinking. Now you're taking all the blame. You call it stupidity that you cut out on me. Oh, honey, you're fanning my flame. I feel like playing cars. I'm too beautiful. I'm too beautiful. I'm too beautiful for you. Yeah. I'm too beautiful. I'm too beautiful. I'm too beautiful for you. Man, you hit and you ran. What a cowardly man. And I could not remember my name. Well, you left me undone. It was not any fun. Now I'm back on my feet. Can't complain. I get it, yeah. I forgive, not forget. Humpty Dumpty was never the same. I'm too beautiful for you. Everybody sing it and be like, I'm too beautiful. I'm too beautiful. I'm too beautiful for you. I'm too beautiful. I'm too beautiful. I'm too beautiful for you. I'm too beautiful. I'm too beautiful. I'm too beautiful for you. Whoa, look at me, baby. I'm too beautiful for you. Woo! Should I do something up now?
That's a good, if you have any more up material, that'd be great. That would be great. Let me ask you this. Of all the things that you've done, you've had the one-woman show at the Cherry Lane Theater, written a novel, you album out,
Nonfiction.
which is on that wall right there. You can't see it, but the album, Sleep Naked, right?
That's correct.
That's out there. You have so many things going on, and you always have so many things going on. The question is, what's next?
I think I'm making another album. I've been recording, writing a whole new theme. This is the happiest place I've ever been in my life. And it's very sustained happiness. It's all built up to this moment right now. So I'm kind of writing an album about being in this space. You know, it's also good because it's not about healing from something that was bad, that was part of the growth process. And you know me, I'm grateful for everything that happened. I'm grateful for all the pain because it just gotten me better and better and stronger and more focused. And that's what happens, you know. And so I'm so appreciative. So I think I'm working on that. I've got a chunk of songs like this. And in fact, I got one I'm working on. And I just thought, since we're all kind of family around here, that I would just play this one I'm working on as an ending song, and it's rough.
Is this one called Set Aside?
It's called the Set Aside song, yeah.
Okay, so that'll be the closing number.
Yes.
And just before that,
Yes.
it just popped into my head something I'm curious about. It's kind of another two-parter. The first one is, what do people not understand about you?
Oh my God. What do people not understand about me?
Yes, what, like maybe something they have wrong about you. And the second question is, what would you like them first and foremost to know about you?
Well, the first thing is that this doesn't happen often, but sometimes people think I've heard feedback that when I'm supporting them, that I'm somehow pushing. And that's something I have to learn to be careful about, because I'm so enthusiastic. But sometimes when a person is in a certain space, that they just don't want to be pushed. And so that's, I'm only trying, I try to always come from a really good place. And I'm always there for that person, and I always want that person to, I want to help uplift the energy around me.
So are you saying sometimes some folks occasionally misinterpret your intentions?
I think I'm always surprised when I get that feedback, but yes,
Okay.
so
So
that's
what if you have the headline on your head, like right across your forehead, that you want everybody to know about you first and foremost? What's that?
Good question. One thing that I love learning, I guess, and that's a lot of stuff to write on a fairly small forehead.
Learning's a long word.
Or learning is a long
Go
word.
write small.
So I love learning it, and I love to help ignite the creative spirit, whether it's in others or in myself. I love to ignite that and give it an engine to go in every direction it feels creativity wants to go with each person. That's a lot of stuff.
In order to fit that on your head, you're gonna have to shave a bit off the top, sort of a Ben Franklin style, like bald on top with hair on the side. Then you'll be able to fit all that.
Okay, we'll work on that.
And on that note,
oh my God,
quite literally, I saw the title of this song and I knew I'd never heard it before. Set Aside. So here's the new one, the very new song by Elizabeth Rose. You hear it here first.
And it's going to have a big horn arrangement, which I've been working on in the studio. I don't think I need the words, so I'm just going to you. So it's going to be longer than this, but you'll get the idea. I'm going to set aside everything I think I know about happiness. I'm going to set aside this bag of tricks that I've kept in my show. I'm gonna set aside this keep 'em laughing happiness. I'm gonna set aside everything I think I know. I'm gonna put away all the rules and regulations. That way. I'm gonna put away everything I learned in school. I'm gonna put away my sweet love of confrontation. Although I'm still on the fence about the golden rule. 'Cause I got a big mouth and I'm a certified know-it-all. I'm gonna zip my lip, get hip, and trash the remote control. I'm gonna resign from my stinking thinking. Gonna forsake the gloom and doom. I'm gonna climb the stairs to higher ground or beyond the recovery room. Horns. When it comes to happiness, I don't know what I don't know. So Josh should fit the battle of Jericho. Hey Josh, let me take down these walls. Play your trumpet. Josh should hit the battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling down. What do you think? I'm gonna open it up. I wanna open up. to love. Just like Shay saying, I'm gonna open up to love. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Brewster. Thank you, Molly. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Donnie. Thank you, Rafters, Hammer community. I hope to see you soon. We'll see you tomorrow at the virtual open mic.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Elizabeth Rose. I was glad to see a few of you found your way to watch this show,
Yeah.
Hanging at the Rafters. Remember, this was our very first one. We thought it was extremely important that we have Elizabeth Rose as our very first guest. She does so many things that she's definitely going to be back on future episodes.
Thank you.
And we will also improve this whole thing the way this is going. We'll have, better cameras. We'll work it out. The plastic will stay for now.
Okay.
If Elizabeth doesn't.
And Brewster's going to be interviewed by me down the road, so we got to
That's right,
get his
down the
night
road we
because
will.
he's my favorite.
We'll flip it around. But thank you all for being here. And until next time, we'll see you. Be safe. Bye-bye.